God.
Sugar rush.
I was ready to die. Yes, there are three of us sitting here today. Hello, I'm Elise Giamacco Carlson.
We don't know if you can see the middle person. Some of us more sensitive do. Yeah, I'm Carl L. Johnson, and we are Panoramic Perspectives tonight. Panoramic Paranormal. And, well, we can talk about our guest, but it seems kind of redundant, doesn't it? No, he has some things coming up, and we do. We're just organizing with the new year, seeing what we, getting our ducks in a row and all that. So it seems silly to talk amongst ourselves with somebody here. I mean, I'm upstaging.
I don't have any ducks.
Quack, quack. Ducks. Yeah. Well, you recognize him? I know you recognize me. Come on, guy. And of course, we know Elise by now. Elise is the forefront. Yeah. And we have Mr. Andrew Lake of Greenville Paranormal here. And
thank you for joining us.
yes, thank you so much.
I'm only up the road like 3 minutes. We'll probably get here at all.
We could have come to you.
Yeah. Usually we talk amongst ourselves for a few minutes before we start the show, but it just seems like, yeah. Now, how do you like your lighting? Are you okay? You look like you're in witness protection right now.
Yeah, I know. I should have wore a collar too, huh?
Yeah.
I'm not sitting close because I want to be close to the camera. It's just so I can read the comments because my glasses need changing.
Moody and half shadow and all that, but we can, if you want a lamp on you.
Oh no, I look fine.
We do. Well, let me see what we can do here. So how long have you been doing?
Sophisticated lighting techniques.
All it does is light me up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
I have a ring light. I want to get a green screen. So
yeah, that's a pretty.
It's kind of busy back
Oh,
there.
I thought that was a green screen behind us. I thought you just went with that, that historic society look.
Yes, the messy office look. The
yes.
messy. What is it? Messy desk, messy brain. That's me.
You are not a messy brain. You are the organizer here, and I make no bones about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So usually we talk about what we have been doing and what we have coming up. What have we been doing? We had Christmas. We had
Christmas
New
took
Year's.
up a lot of our time. Yeah.
Christmas took up a lot of my time because I just had it last Sunday.
Oh yeah, you had like a Russian Orthodox Christmas. Yours was postponed, because there was some illness and people had trouble getting there.
We had to wait till everybody was well and get on the tree, but we still had lasagna and roast beef that I had shoved in the freezer
I saw
on
the
Christmas.
pictures. It looked like you had a good time. I couldn't get there, but anyway, on Christmas I was tied up with my own debacle and family stuff.
Did you have a nice Christmas, Andrew?
Yes, I did. The dog and I had a very nice Christmas.
That's the way to do it.
You got a whale and a duck and some treats.
You got a duck. I didn't get it.
And one of the bags of treats he didn't care for. The poor dog walked around with it in his mouth like, oh. Just
oh,
give
that's
it.
funny.
Yeah, I was like, just give it to me, guys.
Oh, you mean like in a restaurant? Get rid of this.
No, the others were good, but that was just like, no. But besides that was the only failure of Christmas. I had a very nice time. I decorated the living room. Everything was nice.
Very good.
We did.
And
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you don't just like hermitize yourself and not do anything.
My neighbor had a tree fall down his backyard, so I had plenty of firewood. So,
there you
so
go.
it was literally a windfall profit. It was it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew Lake, they say he lives out there yonder down that road. And, sometimes you see him. People report seeing a face in the window.
I've been coming out nowadays. Yep.
Well, my friend, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, Carl.
Yeah, now we have a history. We go back. We could just reminisce about our times and tell Elise about it. When we first met, when we first got to know, we were on these investigations. We did these things. But we had the Ghost Stage Show organized by Jeff Belanger, and that was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. Very
we had 4 very successful shows, except for the one where Jeff's mic kept dying. That was funny.
Here we go.
It was only his mic. Only his mic. That was weird.
Something wanted to drown him out.
Yeah, I have no idea what that was about, but they went well. They went well, and people enjoyed them. And who doesn't like a good ghost story?
Yeah.
Good. And let's face it, New England's full of ghost stories and legends.
He made you the introductory voice.
Yeah,
because they use you as Rod Serling.
Yeah, I was kind of the Rod Serling.
We all just come out and we're standing up and doing our presentation, and you're sitting there in this easy chair, and you're like, they said this library is, or this theater is haunted. I'm here to tell you, it's true. And just we had everybody riveted. It had to have a strong start as well as a strong finish. But you were the strong start.
I think the fourth theater was the only one that really was. That was the brand new one, the high school we went to. That beautiful high school. Was that Westfield, Mass?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a terrific auditorium. But the other places were, and Masonic Hall. I mean, surprise, surprise, Masonic Hall haunted. And the Stadium Theater.
They have to be. Libraries and theaters have to be.
Now the
Stadium Theater.
Now the funny thing is, that was my first time going to the Stadium Theater when we were getting ready for that show, and I walked into the Stadium Theater and I came in from the side door and I come onto the stage and I'm like, wow, look at that! I've never, this is amazing. I've never even been into the theater, and just for a split second, I could have sworn I saw someone go up one of the aisles up toward the back.
You did have an experience.
And I was like, no, I guess not. Maybe because I just walked in, I thought I saw that. So I just let it go. And then the manager's telling us ghost stories. She says, yeah, quite often people see a figure go up that. So I think I may have got a glimpse of that.
You
that
might
ghost.
have had good time. You had serendipity.
That's funny.
Well, I have a list here. It's a very short list. It's of things you don't know. So it's very short. I might as well put that aside, because you are a historian. We were just chatting about, stories about World War II.
Right.
Of course, you missed service in World War II.
Yeah.
But when you're telling the stories, it's like you're there.
I don't know. Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, maybe you were there.
I'll tell you. I had
line of thinking.
I had 3 dreams, a series of 3 dreams throughout my life that are very, very, very strange. That make me wonder if maybe I could have been.
I used to subscribe to,
Yeah, they were really strange.
To belief in reincarnation.
Well, and the funny thing is, I had a girlfriend met me, and she's like, "Oh, this is pretty exciting. I met this guy. I'm going to get a reading." So she went to this gal up on the east side. Her name was Aluna, and she did a tarot reading. And the reading ended up not being about my now new girlfriend at the time. She's going, "You've got a new boyfriend," and everything was about me. Like every card came down was about me. It was the reading had nothing to do with her. It was all about me. And she says, yeah, he's an old soul and he's lived quite a few lives and he's died mostly in conflict.
Wow.
And said that I was butchered at the end of a battle. I was wounded, crawled off, tried to hide, and the enemy found me and literally butchered me. And then I find out that my direct ancestor, Captain Thomas Lake, died August 14th in the King Philip. So I'm a direct relation of him. He was killed by the Micmac. It says on his stone, slaughtered by savages. So he literally, that's the way he died. And then she said he was also the reincarnation of his grandfather's best friend in the First World War. And sure enough, my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, was in the First World War. And I found a picture of him standing next to a guy. It said, 2 good friends in France, 1918, Sergeant Lake and Sergeant McCormick.
Wow.
And I can't wonder. I wonder, could that have been me? Because supposedly, from this woman doing this reading, that's one of these deaths. I died, in conflict.
Do you think you have any carryover trauma from a past life?
Well, that's what happened when I was very, very young. My father, it was before the days of video. He used to rent 16 millimeter films and rent them. We still have the screen up in the upstairs living room, and he had rented the movie, the Alistair MacLean adventure film, Guns and Avron, which wasn't a very gory war film. It was more of a spy action film. And I loved it as a kid. I thought it was terrific. And I remember going to bed and going to bed and the lights went off. And the next morning I woke up confused and my brother's looking at me really strange. And I said, did something really weird happen last night? And he goes, yeah, you were like off fighting a war and you were calling out for ammunition and talking about Germans being over there and we couldn't wake you up and mom came down and you were talking about this and calling out this guy's name and then you just laid down and went to sleep. And then when I was in Great Britain in 1981, asleep in a house out in the country, I had a very, very, very vivid dream of wearing an Allied uniform, Canadian, British, walking to a big hangar and a bunch of guys going, here he is over here. And I walked up over there and woke up from that dream thinking, wow, that wasn't a dream. And then the final part was, this is before the days of paintball. I'd never been shot by anything. And I had a vivid dream in color that I was in Holland. I've never been to Holland, but I knew I was in Holland. And some guys were running ahead of me and I ran up over a little bridge and I turned to give them covering and my weapon jammed. And the sadistic look on the German as he saw my weapon jam, as he leveled the machine gun and the bullets hitting me, ripping into me. And I fell back and hit the bridge. And as I hit the bridge, I woke up off my mattress going, and And I thought, wow, you're not supposed to die in your dreams.
No.
So I wonder, after
Wow.
all these things that have come up, I'm like, man, maybe reincarnation is real.
maybe
So
you could have absorbed something called a meta pattern, or maybe you really were there.
Maybe what this girl was saying is he died over and over and over again from one conflict after another.
There was a famous World War II general that believed
Pat,
very deeply
Pat,
in reincarnation. General
Yeah,
George
yeah.
Smith Patton.
He felt he'd been at all these battles, but maybe that explains why my favorite toy is G.I. Joe. I mean, ever since I was a Rhode Islander, you know. And when was G.I. Joe born? Same month and year I was, February 1964.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
The end of one of his poems, where I fought in many guises, many names, but always me.
Yeah. So it makes you wonder. Reincarnation, it makes me think after having all that information and the weird dreams I've had. And
because usually you hear about children.
Those
kinds of memories, and they fade as they get older.
Well, like I was saying, I was very little when I had that moment that night in the house, but it was funny how I woke up knowing something had happened, and they were like, "We couldn't wake you up, and you were talking to this guy and looking out for ammunition, and just weird, just weird." Yeah, it makes you wonder.
You could do a whole show on this topic.
Yeah,
you know,
more stories and reincarnation.
Let's see, what did I bring out for you? Like, how did you get into this? I mean, when did you first develop an interest in researching, investigating?
I've told the story many times. I was 11 years old, Situate, Massachusetts. A family that I've known since I was kids. The little kid knew their kids, the Ritters. They had a house in Situate, Mass, very old house. And
I remember this now.
And I used to go there. I was lucky enough to go for like weekends in the summer. And when I was 11 years old, we went there, and 2 nights running, I woke up to somebody in the downstairs kitchen moving the plates, the chairs, the cabinets, but no footsteps. And then nobody would come back upstairs. It was both nights at 2:35, same exact night, and found that my friend's great aunt who owned the house had passed away in the house.
Terrifying at the time?
No, because it felt like someone's relative was downstairs. It felt like somebody was down in the kitchen making stuff. So I remember bringing it up because nobody came upstairs. And I'm like, none of you went downstairs last night, because my bed was right there at the top of the stairs. Like, you couldn't go by, me without, going down the stairs. Nobody came up. I never heard footsteps. They're like, no, nobody was up, Andrew. Next night, I woke up 2:35. There's the clock, and it happens all over again. But yet, no footsteps, just the silverware, the bowls, the clacking, the doors opening.
I know what you're saying because I've had the experience.
And it was, and then it was done, and it was just like, okay. And if someone had been downstairs, the floor, you could see right through the floorboards if somebody had the kitchen.
Yes, you would know.
So I could literally have gotten down on the floor, looked in, and seen something, but there was nobody down there. Nobody broke.
So you started pretty young.
Yeah.
Most people start.
And so then I took pictures when I was that year with the little 110. And I found them.
Oh, you were an early investigator.
And I showed it to a guy who was a male nurse up in Boston, real nice guy, RN. I'm trying to remember his first name. Oh, I'm sorry, I forget the guy's name, but he was very talented. And I showed him the picture, and I was telling him the ghost story. He goes, "Oh, you don't have to tell me this place is haunted, Andy. The whole balcony's full of them." And he could see in the picture, and he was like pointing out what they were wearing. And so I thought that was kind of neat validation all those years later.
Wow.
But the house sadly burned to the ground.
Oh, well.
And then
so we can't go there.
Yeah, but that was it. I knew something had happened. Then when I was 13 in England, I had a run-in with a ghost with my mom there. Someone else years later, without knowing our story, had the same thing happen to him in the same house. I lived in a haunted house for 5.5 years in Situate, Rhode Island, which is funny. Another Situate name for the same town.
Yeah.
And
I know that was named for Situate, Massachusetts.
So even if I had become bored with this subject, it's always keeps coming right up in my lap.
It won't leave
one
you
way or
alone.
another. Yeah.
You had some interest in Situate out there.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I want to say that I don't know what our demographic is for an audience tonight, but some people might remember your voice or your type of voice from someone else, because you sound a lot like your father.
Oh yeah, I do have my dad's voice. Yep. Some might remember me from 30 Odd Minutes, the show.
30 Odd Minutes. That was a hit.
I was the voice of 30 Odd Minutes.
Yeah.
And no, because I had my dad's voice, which
strangely
is a gift.
odd.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Yeah. But no, it is a gift. I very much appreciate it, and I get a kick out of it. I remember years ago when I was in home health care, I was setting up some oxygen equipment, and the patient, the elderly woman, was listening to me, and she interrupts me and goes to her family. "He reminds me of somebody. Who does he sound like?" And they're going, "Mom, that's not important. Let him explain the equipment. It's important." And I went, "No, wait a minute." I go, "She's on to something. Who do I sound like?"
Not on something, but on something.
She goes, someone on TV, like the news. The news. And they're going, Mom, come on, please. I go, look at the family. I go, no, she's onto something, really. Now think about it. She goes, I know Art Lake, the weatherman. And they go, okay, Mom. I go, yeah, I'm his youngest son.
Oh, you had to say it was good morning, Frank. Good morning, everyone.
So the whole family's looking at me like, you're kidding. I go, no, she's right. I'm Art Lake's youngest son. So this 80-something-year-old woman's looking at her family going, I told you. I thought that was so funny that her ear caught it.
That's a good one.
She put 2 and 2 together. So her whole family thought she was like being, cuckoo wild-eyed. It was like, no, Mom knew what she was talking about. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and I'm glad you got to spend so much time with your father, caring for him in his, his elder years, very elder years.
But I spent a lot of time down at Channel 10 watching him do what he did.
Yeah.
It's probably why I didn't follow him into that industry, because it's nuts. I don't know how. My dad holds a world's record. He was in the same location for over 60 years.
Yeah.
Now, there were people who beat him by about 5 years altogether, like Don Pardo at NBC.
Oh yeah, Don Pardo used to introduce Saturday Night Live.
He beat my dad by 5 years technically.
Oh, really?
And the funny thing is they both were hired at the same time from Emerson. They were both hired by the outlet company.
Don Pardo was there.
He was at the outlet company. He was at the outlet company.
The outlet company. I remember those broadcasts.
Thank you,
Ken. And
look, Andrew, there's.
And Don Pardo went on to New York, but my father stayed because they just built the house in Greenville. But not only that, but Ted Knight.
Yes.
Ted Knight.
People don't realize he did a comic on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, comic radio books. Yeah,
that's right. Well, he did a kids puppet show at Channel 10.
Yes. But
when he created Ted Baxter, what a lot of people realize is he was doing an impression of a guy that he used to work with my dad. They worked with a guy who will remain nameless, who was this handsome guy with a terrific voice, but he wasn't that bright. And he would read the news. He would read the news wrong. He'd mispronounce things. My father said the old days when they were writing on the maps. You don't want me to say
his name?
No. He was writing on the maps before the days.
Yes, I remember.
And he's out of camera shot, and the guy announces that Mario Andretti won the Grand Prix. And my father had to walk off the set because he was going to lose it. He's just like,
oh, that's funny.
So when he used to watch Mary Tyler Moore, my father would lose it. He go, you don't understand. He's doing an impression of a guy we used to work with.
Yeah.
Like, you think it's like a made-up character.
Twice as funny.
Yeah. So my father would howl at laughter every time Ted Knight would do Ted
There's a couple of times your father had to crack up.
And Murray would go, come on, Ted, I got to show you what you mispronounced this time. They take him off of the script. Mm-hmm. But no.
Oh, Ted.
Now, but I've also, been told that because of my passions of the ghost stuff that, my father's voice.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're natural. That ghost stage show, for those of you who were fortunate enough to take that in, quite a few did. But I saw that we had big audiences every time.
Yeah, so
and you would start that. You really gave it the strong opening because of the way they position you, not in the center stage, but off to the side. You were on stage left by the audience perspective, and
we had the photography covering up the screen, which kind of brought the audience there.
And then the light would come on you, and you say,
I don't know. I think it's a time to get the band back together.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff wants to do it if we're gonna go out on a limb.
At least just do a reunion.
It was fun, Or, I had trouble making rehearsals, but I always made them. But it was like just like when you're sitting down. I was all right. I'm here.
Let me guess, there was a woman involved.
Yeah.
A woman was usually my mother
taking
back
up
then.
His time.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's
true. Yeah. And the way you said that, you were like in the you would have your hands on the arms of the chair, and you said, you've heard that this let's say this theater, because sometimes it was a library, sometimes it was a theater, and you said, you've heard this theater is haunted? Well, I can tell you, it's true. It is. And everybody could
well, what also helped me, not only with my father's voice, but one of the things my father and I did together, his father and son, our hobby, is way back in 1977, I had WBRU on one night. Remember WBRU?
Oh, yeah.
And Sunday nights, they would run old-time radio shows. Yeah. And I got hooked like that. And my father came home from work one night and said, Dad, you know what I've been listening to late at night? I'm listening to The Shadow.
I was going to say The Shadow. That's what people remember.
And Green Hornet and the Lone Ranger.
God, that's exactly the order I was going to say it in.
And my father's like, what are you doing? Put a cassette in the radio. I want to hear this stuff. I haven't heard it since, I was.
Yeah.
So we started collecting them, and I have a huge collection on cassette.
I was just going to say The Shadow, the Green Hornet, the Lone Ranger, because I used to hear these.
But I'd lay in the dark listening to these great voices. So like Orson Welles and Raymond from the Inner Sanctum, who was the original, the Crypt Keeper from HBO. You wouldn't have him if it wasn't for Raymond in the Inner Sanctum, because he do the corny puns and all that. But listen to those shows, the way they would tell those stories. They're incredibly scary. There was a show called Quiet Please that had an episode called The Thing on the Floorboard. And every time I play that episode for somebody on Halloween, they're like, "Oh my God, that is like, yeah, it's scarier than anything on television." Why? Because it's all in your mind.
Yeah.
So I learned how to use your voice to bring people into, a story and to take them along so they can see it for themselves.
Ah, well, what can you tell us about your book?
My book was 12 years ago now.
I've got the title right here.
Yeah, 12 years ago now. It sold about as well as a bag of rusty doorknobs. However, the funny thing is, people keep coming up to me and giving me the nicest compliments on it. It's really funny because I had a woman that lives in Tennessee came up to me and said, "Hey, someone told me who you are. Your book is currently my favorite ghost book in my collection."
Wow.
And I had a retired British police officer turned videographer who works for the Society of Psychical Research. Well, works with them, I should say. And he looked over my shoulder and saw the cover of my book and went, "Oh, you wrote that book. Oh, I have that book. That's a very good book." So it's funny how I keep running into people who keep telling me it's a great book, but according to the publishing company, it didn't really sell that well.
You've had a wide influence on people, probably more than you can know. We have a personal friend, Elise and I. She's involved with Hearthside House in Lincoln. I probably shouldn't say her name, but I will.
Yeah.
Trisha Pandolfi. She saw you at I think it was Ocean State Paracon, and she was thinking of dropping out of her interest in the paranormal because it didn't seem to be going anywhere. She talked to you there, and she decided to stay in it. You renewed her interest.
Well, that's
speaking
nice.
to her that day.
Yeah, I know what she's probably getting at. There was a lot of let's face a lot of commercialism once the TV people are like, they're like, wow, this is a topic. Jeff Belanger was told by a producer, he said, the paranormal topic is now like any other topic in television. It's just like the cooking show. It's just like the Fix It Up show. So there's always going to be a paranormal show. And unfortunately, as long as you have producers that have never had a passion for it, and you're like, "Hey, Tom, Sally, you're going to run this paranormal show for us. All right, let's do some research. I don't know." Exactly. So they do their best. So they stick to a formula. It works.
They're afraid to break away from the formula. Because it might be a flop.
Yeah, because you figure if they did follow a real investigation, what are you going to do? Have a whole,
as I tell people,
run of us sitting around going.
And then you finally get that cool EVP, and that's the one thing you get. That's what I tell people.
We sat there and listened to EVP on film.
I said, if you ever went on an investigation with me, you'd be kind of bored and disappointed. But we do it as much as we do because you then have that one day that's just or night or whatever, and you're like, "Oh my goodness!"
It's almost like they're two separate things now: the paranormal entertainment industry and what we're doing. Look at the answers.
Right.
Hey, since you and I are obviously of an age, what does Elise have in her hands? Well, that's what it really is. But it is flubber.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to remember Flubber.
I remember the movie Flubber,
but
I think
the Nutty Professor.
I think they packaged it to me as a kid as Gak. I think as a toy.
Now this is keyboard cleaner.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just.
It's good but it does make me think of that. It does.
Silly Putty.
Once the movie came out with Fred McMurray, you could buy that. And Silly Putty was
Flubber.
This is religion to me. Silly Putty, Flubber. Fizzies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you got that. Okay, now. We talked a little bit about your book, and it's a pretty decent read. It's a field guide. That's what the title says.
It's a pocket guide. It's exactly what it is. It's you can take the book, get in the car, and you can go to a location.
Well,
and if you've got a friend with you that's like, "I'm not into ghosts," it's like, well, it's a nice restaurant, or it's a cool store, or it's a neat museum, or whatever.
Mine is Demonology Handbook. Shadow Realms Demonology Handbook. So you could put it in your backpack.
A lot of good restaurants that involve the demonology.
Well,
what hell of a steak at that place.
I know how to get the seat of choice. All I do is start talking about my trade, and people start to leave, or they come up and start asking me. Like I'm a doctor.
Extra spicy.
That book wasn't my idea. It was the editor's idea. So I followed his format. And the shame about that format is before the book was even printed, one of the locations burned down. And already, I think there's 4 other locations that are
makes it all the more interesting. If you reissue it, you can put in a preface.
Well, I mean, it was neat that I was the only person who ever wrote about the place while it was standing. I mean, that was kind of an honor, but I felt bad for the owner that the place burned down like that. It was a electrical fire. It was in the Groton. It was the Groton Inn up in Massachusetts.
Because I was just flipping through.
And the family was so nice, and the ghost stories were incredible. And I met a ghost hunting team that had a terrific experience there. And and it was very, very neat. And as the book was being printed, it was one of America's oldest inns too.
Yeah.
I think it was like the 4th. I think it was.
And that's gone now.
Yep. It was like the 4th oldest inn in America when it burned.
treasures are meant to be lost and burned.
Well,
It happens.
Our
It
founding
seems they are.
fathers would stay there, and all kinds of famous people had been in and out of it.
Ah.
And it was crawling with ghosts, apparently.
It makes you wonder what
Yeah.
happens to, who or what people were finding evidence of there now that the building itself is gone.
Well, one of the
Yeah, I
psychics I worked with when it burned, she looked at me and said,
There you
Andy,
go.
believe me, they're
That
not.
looks
Yeah,
familiar to you?
there you go. She said, they're never going to leave that location, Andy. That location is imprinted. If they build a gas station there, they're going to be in the gas station. That was her opinion.
Oh, wow.
And she was pretty talented, so I took her word for it.
I know what questions to ask you. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I do have a few more. Put it all together. If you have a unified field theory, what has this taught you? What have you learned? What have you garnered from this ghost hunting and paranormal investigation? I know it's much more than ghost
Really,
hunting.
all kidding aside,
Yeah,
we haven't a clue. None of us have a clue. It's
140 years of research.
I-
We don't
I-
have a clue.
I remember when I read the book, The Hunt for the Skinwalker, which is a
Yeah.
terrific book. I recommend it to anybody. Not, everybody knows the History Channel show now,
Yeah.
but that book was terrific. And the thing that I liked about it is I'm just a blue collar Joe, but it was fascinating and rewarding to see that, this Nibs team, that Bigelow got these people together, the best of the best, veterinarians, military guys, everybody, and they couldn't capture one bit of evidence that they could
right.
analyze,
After all
break
this
down.
time.
It was like the thing toyed
Everything's
with
just,
them.
You can have an
yeah,
interesting
everything's just
experience,
over here,
And
not
what-
in your
and
direct
we've-
sight.
And we've all been at this long enough to know that, there are these locations you can be lucky enough to get in. People will let you have, the run of the place. You can do the investigation. You want to do it. And you think you're starting to come to some answers. You think you've come to a pattern, and it changes on you.
Yeah.
So it happened to them. It happens to us in smaller investigations, but it just goes to show you that the paranormal is a trickster. And you think it's like an ice cube. You can hold it really tight in your hand. It'll either squirt out the top of your hand and shoot across
Good
the
analogy.
room, or it'll melt through your
Because
fingers.
now I can't
Yeah.
plagiarize and use it myself.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
sit up there.
But
the
you know what I mean?
broadcast,
You can't really get a grip on it. So the
Right.
more I've looked into it, the more I just try to relax and sit back
But
and
you stay
observe
with it.
it.
You still
and
write about it.
yeah.
You're still interested. You still lecture.
Last case that I did was in 2019 in Barrington, Rhode Island. There for 5.5 hours. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Footsteps walking through the house, disembodied voices, battery
It's real. It
drains.
does happen.
And I told the owner, I said, thanks so much for letting me and my friends in here, because it was one of those nights. This is why we do this. This was, they'd had experience for 10 years in the house, so they were like, oh, we know it's haunted. We don't need somebody to tell us it's haunted, but if you want to come in, sure. So they gave us the house for 5.5 hours, and it was like, wow. I gave them a DVD with all the stuff that we caught on it, the stuff.
Good, yeah.
And I said, this house is, you're definitely not nuts.
Do you still run into people who say, like, there's nothing. I don't know why you waste your time with it. There's nothing to this. If that's your business, but you don't.
But they're the first people to jump if you're taking to the location.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, this is well. We had a great time. It's in my book, the Houghton Mansion up in North Adams, and we were up there having an event, and this lady showed up with her date, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" Yeah, he was a lawyer. It's like, yeah, she's into the ghost stuff. She wanted to do this.
Yeah.
She's going, but and he seemed like a nice enough guy. He's like, I'm just tagged along because she wants to do that. I don't really believe in this stuff. Yeah, at the end of the night, he was shaking hands, going, "Hey, this was really interesting."
Good. What a success story, huh?
Yeah, he became a believer.
That's a guy who really enjoyed it.
He was down in the basement with Belanger, and they'd gotten everybody out, and Belanger was just about to shut the lights off, and they clearly heard the on the concrete floor. And the guy looked at Belanger and went, "Someone's back there." And Jeff goes, "No, I just went down there, checked, turned the lights on, looked around, nobody there." And the guy was like, "Okay, let's go." And he's up the stairs. But at the end of the night, he went from being friendly skeptic to, "Hey, you guys got me thinking now." Yeah, there we go. There's the Houghton Mansion. Wow. That place is,
and that has a tragic history.
It's very, the first mayor.
In fact, it was one of our stories for the Houghton. Jeff Belanger did that.
Yeah, he lost his daughter. He lost his right-hand man, his driver, and a niece was killed in that accident. And they say he died of a broken heart in that house.
I mean, Jeff telling that story, it got me,
Oh, it's a sad story. And I really do believe he didn't die from his injuries from the wreck. I think he really did die of a broken heart. Really. Yeah, that was a tragic thing. I mean, you buy a car. Hey, the first car, the Pace Arrow. It's like, ooh, we own a car, and your chauffeur who's used to driving horse-drawn vehicles is doing his best. And
hey, what about Carl and Andrew, or Andrew and Carl investigations? We've been on a couple together.
The one in North Providence, not too far from
the
here.
House of Voices.
Yeah, that you guys brought me in on.
Spring Avenue.
Yeah, you didn't tell me anything going on there. That's what I thought was interesting. And I went in and
I wanted you there.
yeah, and I remember you guys saying, so what do you think? And I said, it's like a bus stop. It's like you got people coming and going that don't seem to belong in the house. And then what do we find out? The skeptical husband works at a funeral home.
Yeah, he was
bringing work home.
82 years of age. He didn't have to retire. Family business. He didn't want to retire. Yeah. He was bringing home his clients. Yeah.
Oh,
the disembodied kind.
The EVPs were incredible.
They were conversational.
Oh yeah, you guys you had a theory about, you were talking about like people coming in and out and going in and out, and this guy cuts in and goes, "You're right on."
Yeah, you're right on.
You're right on. I mean, like you're right on, like that. And Father
Bob Bailey.
Yeah, Bob. Yeah, he was in the bedroom and they were setting up the cameras, and he said, "You know why we're here?" And the little girl, clear as a bell, says, "To make a video."
Yeah, and we play it back. That's what we heard. To make a video.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, and one of them had this female voice had an attitude. She says to one of our investigators, she says, "Bitch, go get another tattoo."
Yeah, yeah.
Or get another tattoo.
Yeah, no, I've actually got that on my website. Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, cool.
No, that place was incredible. But how about the grandson? He's going, "No, I stayed over one night and I woke up in the middle of the night. I had to use the bathroom."
I remember.
He goes into the hallway and he sees what he thinks is his grandfather coming out of the bathroom. So he stops to like let him out and watches him go into his father's bedroom. Then he realizes that's not grandpa. And he walks into the bedroom and there's grandpa asleep next to grandma. And the guy he saw walk in the bedroom is nowhere to be seen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was like a bald-headed guy with a wife beater. And he said, yeah.
Where did he come from?
Yeah, and then I realized.
North Providence.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That's just absolutely crazy. And they brought in the other psychic who had worked for the state police, supposedly. That's what I was told. We don't know that for a fact, but she claimed she had. But she walked in and she picked up on the little girl like right off the bat. Because the woman had woke up to find her standing, smiling right next to her bed at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
That house was worth going to.
Oh, wow.
I would expect that the then owners have passed on since.
Yeah, but I think he was bringing people home to that house. Yeah. I don't think it was the neighborhood.
No, because it didn't have any.
That whole neighborhood was built right after World War II.
Yeah,
right after World War II. And I think he was just bringing confused people home.
They like talk about attachments. They just segued in with him.
Well, we had a psychic, had someone we knew that passed. We actually knew the lady. And she said, told the psychic, Pam Padalano, said for the first few days, I didn't realize I was dead. And I couldn't understand why you people wouldn't listen to me. And, and she's talking about the card game they were playing a couple of nights after her passing. And they were like, oh, she's telling the truth. That's right. We were sitting. She said, yeah, I was walking around the table and I was getting mad. And then I realized, oh, I'm dead. And so I just found that, really interesting. So maybe people, a few days after you're dead, maybe it sounds comical, but maybe you can walk around going, hey, I'm talking to you. What's going on here?
We also had an active night at Ramtail site, Ramtail Ruins in Foster, Rhode Island.
I've had several there.
Visual things as well as audio.
You saw the flame that
right. The flame has been reported there.
Well, your sister-in-law photographed it. She saw it with her eyes and snapped the picture and caught it.
And she's got it.
I caught it on video by accident. I was lucky enough. You saw it.
I wasn't anticipating it. I wasn't saying, oh, maybe we'll see the flame. It was not on my mind. And we saw it.
And then I ran into a group of very nice kids in Foster that were out at the Ramtail factory site. And they said, hey, that guy Tom D'Agostino in his book, Haunted Rhode Island's wrong. That's not the Ramtail out there. That's a dairy farm. I said, Tom knows that now.
I remember that revelation.
I said he knows that now, but he says, the kid looks at him and he goes, but that place is haunted too. And I looked at him, I said, yeah, why do you say that? Because of Tom's experience of mine. But he didn't know about this. So I said, why do you say that? He described the same light. He said they were standing in the foundation. And he said, we're just standing there really quiet in the dark. And all of a sudden, my brain's trying to think, oh, look, my friend's lighting up a cigarette in front of me. Because he sees a flame just appear in the air out in front of him. But then he realizes they're all standing shoulder to shoulder and nobody's lit a cigarette. And then everybody freaked. They all saw it. And it just moved off away from them. Kind of like Sandra's picture. It looks like it's zooming away from her. That is an impressive picture. So we're not the only ones. We're not the only ones who've experienced it. I've met other people, and I believe it's a dairy farmer. It's a dairy farmer.
It's not necessarily my antecedent Peleg Walker.
No, he's
walking around with his night watchman lantern.
It's two psychics that I brought to Ramtail. I brought them to the Ramtail swimming pool. Wonder if they pick up on Betsy Grayson.
I know what you mean,
And Stephanie Burke says, I'm talking to this guy. You said his name earlier, some weird name. What was his name? Begins with a P. I said Peleg. She goes, yeah, he says, you come down here. He wants his story straight. And the other psychic staying there goes, yeah, when he was a kid, he hurt his leg and it didn't heal right. And he walked funny. Peleg's odd gait.
Yeah.
And she goes, these fools come down here and expect us to entertain them. And she says, I want that to stop. And he says, they see the farmer with the lantern. They think it's me. When I make my presence known, I jingle the keys. She goes, does that make it? She goes, is that, she's from Massachusetts. She didn't know the story at all. She goes, does that make any sense to you, Andy? He's showing me keys in pocket. So
what this is,
so I think the
illustrating is spirit cognizance that they're aware of. Do you believe spirits are sometimes aware of their environment?
I think some of them are. I think some of them are just psychic residue.
Yeah.
I also have my own pet theory. Nobody steal this. But I have a theory that you talk about, like, they talk about the idea of like the tulpa, like the thought creations.
Right.
Well, I wonder, Tesla says everything's about frequency and vibration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we get to go on to heaven,
do we know about to understand the universe? Speak in terms of vibration.
Exactly. So does that mean heaven is another frequency, another vibration from where we are now? So
here and yet not here.
If you have a dirty, muddled life here with a lot of baggage, are you at the wrong vibration, wrong frequency? And it's said that when we die, we have to go through a process of learning, from our mistakes and understanding where we went right, where we went wrong. So maybe that's a process where you get rid of that like negative vibration.
Right.
So let's say you became a miserable drunk when you were alive, and then you die, and Uncle Tom is there, and he's like, hey, I'm here to take you to heaven, but you got a lot of dirty baggage. You're at the wrong frequency, the wrong vibration. You got to admit you did some wrong things. We got to go over things. So you shed that before you can move on.
It's kind of like a version of purgatory in a way, like purging.
But it was a part of your personality. You created that part of you. It became
how vastly different can you be?
Do you cast that off? And that's why a lot of ghosts are miserable and
maybe that's what's been cast off.
And they're exactly. Maybe it's like an onion skin. Maybe you peel it off, so the real you moves on, but you leave a part of you behind that's like that was never part of you to begin with. Like you were never a miserable drunk. That girl broke your heart. You started drinking too much, and you turned into a jerk. You were slamming doors. You were stomping feet, and that's what gets left behind. The door keeps slamming. The feet keep stopping. Someone sees an apparition of this miserable guy you never see. But maybe it does have its own awareness.
The man with the shovel.
Maybe it does have its own awareness, but only within that bubble.
Did you see the shovel man?
I heard him.
I
think I heard the guy with the shovel out in if you're talking about in Foster.
Yep.
I think several times I heard a metallic clang in the road.
Well, this man is seen like he's carrying a shovel, and more than a couple of people have seen him through the years.
I met a guy 4 years ago at a library, old guy. He was a motorcycle guy. And back in the 70s, he went to a mad barbecue in Connecticut, he said. He was riding back on his bike. He was going up Moosup Valley Road in Foster. And it was a weird guy standing in front of the cemetery. And he immediately turned around on the bridge to go back because he thought maybe the guy had engine trouble or something. When he went back, there was no motorcycle, no car, no guy. And then he thought there was something really odd about him. So he just got the motorcycle back around and continued off. And he didn't know about the ghost on that road until I gave a talk in the library.
That's what it's really.
And at the end of the talk, he's like, I think I saw you're a ghost. He goes, that would explain who the heck that guy was all those years ago. Because he goes, the more he thought about him, the more he realized there was something wrong with the guy.
How much time we got now?
We do have someone who asked a question.
Oh, sure.
I get so interested in
I didn't even know there was anybody in the listening to us.
Oh, yeah, there are a few people here. Let's see this. We were on the 2016 investigation of Edaville Railroad and also saw the stage presentation. Both were great.
Oh, yeah, Edaville.
So there's been investigations of Edaville?
Yeah, there was a tragedy in one of the buildings. There was a boiler explosion.
Oh.
And it was horrible deaths. And people do feel that there is some activity in that building. I didn't get to go in. I had to escort people around outside. It was a beautiful night, and we hung out by the dinosaur Jurassic Park thing. And people go, "Andy, are there ghosts out here? Why are we out here?" I'm like, "No, there's basically nothing to do." But the bogs were out in front of us, and I said, "Hey, the Wampanoag Indians talk about the fact that pugwudgies hang out in the cranberry bogs." And as we're talking, this weird little light appears over the bog for just a moment. And then it disappeared. And did you see that?
Oh, wow.
And then we hear from way over to our left, we hear in the dark, Matt Moniz, who was with another group, going, "Hey, you guys over there?" We went, "Yeah." "Did you just see that light over there?" It's like, "Yeah, that was weird." So I went, hey, I'm calling it a probable. You know, I'm going to stand out here all night. If I see a weird light over the bog, I'm calling it a pugwudgie.
Yeah, no, I'm going to introduce a series of tops, just a few. I'd like you to comment as either no, don't believe and don't care about, or yes with an explanation. Okay. Extraterrestrials, the petite grays, the tall grays, you know, the space people.
Oh, yeah.
They're described with the almond eyes, gray skin.
They're legit, but I mean, are the extraterrestrials dimension jumpers? Are they living entities? There's the supposed report from Roswell that the autopsy showed that they were like an organic robot, like they were more like
cyborgs.
Yeah, like a thing sent to do a task. No, I absolutely believe that the grays, whatever the heck they are, whether they come like Star Trek in a ship or they step through a portal, I don't know what the deal is, but people are being messed with by them. There's no doubt about it. I've met people who I know were legit that get messed with by these people.
Well, somebody says that they're our friends and they're just waiting
for
us to evolve to the point where they can reveal themselves.
How many races that like the Canadian Minister of Defense said it was like 37 different races. Right. And what I think is really funny is people, I'm a ghost guy, but I can wrap my brain around this. They don't come back and forth. They're on this planet with us. Most sightings of people getting off of these craft, they don't have respirators on. They don't have life support suits. Sometimes they do, but mostly they don't. Why? Because they live here with us. They share this planet with us. They don't steal a cow and go back to Alpha Centauri. They go back 300 yards in their small craft and go into a hidden doorway in the side of a hill and then do.
I see them more as ultra terrestrials. It's nice to think they come from the Pleiades.
Well, I think some of them could. I mean, my favorite extraterrestrial stories are people like Valiant Thor and Indrid Cold. I mean, there are people who say no, they existed. Those guys were real. They were extraterrestrials.
Yeah,
there's the pictures of Valiant.
Legends have an element of truth in them.
Valiant Thor was at the Manhattan Project. There's pictures of him sitting in on the meetings. And people said that when you met him,
he was somebody that like was there and yet wasn't. Nobody could account for him.
Well,
Right?
he came right out. He was an extraterrestrial. He was there to help. He was here to help the human race. He was mortal like us, but he was a little more advanced. I mean,
Gary Seven in Star Trek,
exactly,
which was a pilot for his series that never went.
He was inspired by Valiant Thor, because Indrid Cold was the other humanoid alien that said, "No, we're just like you."
Robert Lansing, remember that? Yeah.
So those stories are fascinating because they were so well documented, but yet people kind of glaze over and forget about them.
Okay, I got another one for you. Bigfoot.
Oh, of course. And the thing is, for years I was one of those people that thought, well, maybe it could be an ape, but no, they're not apes. It's another race of people.
You hear this? He has a different way of looking at it.
Well, no, I'm not the only person, because every Native American from the North Pole down to Mexico, not one tribe has ever talked to them. They've never said it's an animal. They've always said it's a race of people.
Mm-hmm. It's a different type of.
More and more people will tell you that when they see them, they look more human than ape-like.
Oh, when I was a Bigfoot hunter, I had a name for it, a genus and everything. I mapped their, from where they come from, and I was really into it for a few years. It was Hominis hylocomium tenebrosus.
Well, the truth is the DNA has been isolated.
Yeah, like people say, how come there's no evidence? We don't find a body, and yet there is stuff.
No, because there is a group of people out there that are controlling a narrative, because they don't want you knowing that these people are much more special, much more important. They're not.
They have been recorded. They have a language.
Oh yeah,
some of them do.
Oh yeah. Oh no, they definitely do. They definitely do speak. No, they're out there. If anybody wants to watch David Pleiades of Missing 411.
Okay.
People don't realize that he's a Bigfoot authority, and he's one of those people that for years and years has been saying they're not monkeys. It's another race of people. The DNA showed it had a human mother, and the father was of a race unknown. It's been isolated. Ketchum, Dr. Ketchum was absolutely vilified. They made her look, oh no, that's a bunch of nonsense. Why? Because it didn't fit the monkey narrative. They've never found primate bones in North America. They've never found primate hair, but they've found giant human skeletons.
Mm-hmm. Which is pretty fantastic stuff. That doesn't fit any theory.
Exactly. But they were giants except in those days.
Nephilim. Yeah, but they were giants in the earth in those days.
One of our viewers said she saw a Bigfoot in Petoskey, Michigan.
I can believe that. Michigan's supposed to be a very big place for them. But no, they're fascinating. Dave Pleiades is also a Canadian hunter named Steve Isdall. He's had experiences with them, and he just laughs that people think they're monkeys and they follow the narrative. And he says there's people out there that are pushing you in a direction that has nothing to do with the truth. These creatures have amazing abilities. And of course, people don't want to hear about the UFO connection with them. There's been some fascinating documented cases of Bigfoot connected to UFOs.
I get asked that,
and
which isn't my specialty as a demonologist, but I can, make a guess and extrapolate like others can.
But then again, it may, what people are seeing around the UFO may be a creature that looks like our Bigfoot, but isn't a Bigfoot at all. You never know. It's that's what's fun about the paranormal. You can roll down a hill.
You can always talk with that.
Yeah.
It's not really not it.
But are they friendly? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Bigfoot. When I was a Bigfoot researcher for 3 years, I tell people Bigfoot in lectures. Bigfoot was real. Oh, you don't believe in it anymore? I said, no, I didn't say I don't. I know what we experienced was real. It was real then. If I went there now, would I find anything? I doubt it.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything with it in some years, but it was real. That it's not just that we were interested in it and, like produced it with our minds. Yeah. No, it was real then. Maybe it's not real now, but it was real then, and we had evidence of it.
No, it's a fascinating mystery. Like I said, I'm a ghost guy, but I absolutely believe that those beings, they're all over the place too. They're all throughout the world. They have them on every continent. I think Hawaii is the only place that they said they've never seen.
How do you know that? Why do you say that? Because when I did an episode of Finding Bigfoot, and I came to Rhode Island, I actually brought the BFRO team here. When I was talking to, what's his name? Bobo Fay. I was just going to say James Bobo Fay. He told me, he said, no, you don't find them in Hawaii. You got them here, but they have their own things. He told me a whole bunch of strange stuff.
Hawaii is a very strange.
He was like, dude, I'm telling you, what they got out there.
They're night walkers. Those stories are spooky.
Yes.
People have seen them. The night walkers with the torches going through the jungles that just sort of float through the jungle. The spirits, very, very crazy stuff. And they have all kinds of cursed spots that a lot of tourists just die a lot if they
tend to. Well, I was in Riverside, Rhode Island on I don't know if you heard about it. I was on a werewolf hunt.
Really?
Oh, there was enough stuff there to make us want to go. Yeah.
Right. Oh, who wouldn't want to go for a werewolf hunt?
It was fun.
I brought Brian J. Cano in on it as a consulting expert, like paranormal enthusiast, and a lot of experience investigating. So now, when we went back there, and we got some interesting photographs before Brian came, and we spent a night there, and some of it was kind of kaflooey and comical, and I feel bad for the eyewitness. And kind of, she was subjected to some harshness. Now, not by myself.
Now, we're talking like an actual shape-shifting werewolf, or
this was
or a dog man.
Well, a dog man, but was he? How physical? The thing in the photograph had memories. So does it beget young? Does
Don't
it
be
make
dog
this
woman.
It was a dog woman. Yeah. I was hoping my scent would attract her.
That was for evidence, but it got lost.
Well,
all the evidence got lost, but we got a wicked cool photograph of eyes that were canine, and I could map its height and an outline and all that. So I brought Brian in on it, Brian Cano, and we didn't see any evidence of the lycanthrope or whatever it was then, but I wanted to get his take on what he was seeing. I said, what have you experienced tonight? We're down by the river. And he said, I've been seeing, this is a woodsy area. He said, I've been seeing shadow people, shadow forms moving around. And I said, that's exactly what I've seen. Usually I've seen, if I see a shadow person, which I have several times, one at a time. But this was, like a group of shadow persons moving about clearly.
Right.
And he saw the same thing, described exactly that. So there'd be something to it.
Well, I'm open-minded about stuff like that. I've just learned there's an interesting story. Supposedly an ambulance driver off of Route 44 in Connecticut, not far from the Pomfret Town Hall.
Oh, okay.
There's a state park on the other side of the road. I think it might be Wolf Den, might be Wolf something. But if you go further up, there's a road there. I think it's Pumpkin Hill or just Pumpkin Road.
I'm sure
or Pumpkin Hill Road, right off of Route 44. He claims that they ran into a whole bunch of dogmen on that road years ago. He and his fellow ambulance
Dogman, I didn't even have that in my notes, but yeah.
Well, he called it a werewolf.
People are still reporting this.
And he said, he said he finally found the former coworker and said, hey, you didn't want to talk about that night, but what did you see? Like, tell me what you saw. And the guy said, yeah, we saw what we saw, and I never want to go down there again. And strangely enough, unconnected to that story, seemingly, the guy Steve Ishdahl I was telling you about, the Canadian, had someone send him an email saying, hey, I live in Connecticut, not far from that location. I looked it up on the map. And he says, coming back from dropping my girlfriend off in Boston, and had a Bigfoot walk right across the road. My buddy was in the car with me. The thing was 8 foot tall, looked like a hair-covered man, naked,
That
walked right across the road.
fits the bill.
But yet he isn't talking about a dog man, but it's in that same vicinity.
Yeah.
And then I recall,
they're so detailed.
I had a member of the
reports.
Narragansett tribe tell me when I was researching stories along Route 44, he said, you should look into that park there. This was, and I said, why? He goes, things have been seen in there. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, monsters.
Mhm.
And as time goes on, I hear about this dogman story nearby, and then I hear about this Bigfoot sighting nearby. So it's funny how you have these areas that if you look into this long enough, people just set these gems in your lap, and then a couple of years go by and you're like, wow, that's 3 stories right within like.
Right.
So,
where these people just didn't know each other to.
What do you feel about these critters, Elise? I mean, Bigfoot, these like humanoid cryptids. It's hard to have an opinion unless you've experienced it.
I don't think they're always here. I like John Keel. Have you ever read any of John Keel's stuff? He had a book called
Paragraphs.
It was Amazing Creatures from Time and Space.
Yeah.
Strange Creatures from Time and Space. And he talks about the fact that you have like credible witnesses see these strange creatures, but then search party after search party after, and they never find another thing. It's like they come and go. And so who knows? Maybe these things can be just as scared as the witnesses. They could have popped through somewhere. Like, where am I? Oh my God! I'm in a weird world. And
there was a very credible sighting. I talked to the eyewitness. I recorded him in Cranston, Rhode Island. This goes back about 20. It must be close.
Western
to
Cranston.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
In a park. Did he wander out? Did he go off his territory or what? So, are you interested in that subject at all, or
I am, but like you said, there's no consistency to it whatsoever where things are seen. But I mean,
can blow your interest, drain your interest too.
Like we were talking about this afternoon, maybe some of these things just don't happen in a linear way that we're thinking of.
Yeah,
we're used to thinking.
It's hard to think outside the box,
more,
even for a paranormal investigator.
Everybody's the word quantum, but things are popping up here and there. And
another simple explanation where these things can come and go is we always forget below us too.
Yeah,
we always have that thought of looking into another dimension or up space, but what knows?
That's a pet theory I had that they subsisted in caverns down there because I found a cave system in this watershed area where we were investigating the Bigfoot phenomenon.
It's like the green kids of Woolpit, England. Yeah, they said they were following bells.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden they came
into a cave and then
came up in our
world. Yeah, and they came up in our world.
Yeah,
the boy died. The girl lived indoors.
And what's 11 miles away from there? Bentwaters, the famous base where they had the case in 1980 where someone visited the base 3 nights in a row. But who's to say that they weren't really coming from down below the base?
Right.
Who knows?
We'll get to a practical matter. Elise, who is our pragmatist, I like to call her that. Any other? I mean, I wish
Killjoy, but
party pooper Killjoy. She hears all those things. That's why I like to address questions to her too about cryptids and all that. Anything else? I'd like to get to every question and comment. Of course, we can't. But,
someone said that I saw an airplane-sized thunderbird over my head in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
I love reports.
We have them in the Bridgewater Triangle. I've known people who have seen them on the ground and in the air. And when you see them on the ground, that's got to be even scarier because they say, I thought it was a guy in a costume until it turned around. It was like a 6-foot tall bird with a 12-foot wingspan. And it
was the Birdman.
Yeah. And it took off into the air right in front of them.
What's interesting about that, one thing that's even more interesting, is these things did exist in the Pleistocene era.
Right.
There was a species in, South America, Argentina. Argentavis magnificans. And this bird weighed in excess of 200 pounds and had up to a 24-foot wingspan. That's a Cessna.
Now, you know why they call them thunderbirds? The Native Americans say they usually show up around thunderstorms.
Yeah.
So is that a punch in some kind of
because
fabric?
catching the drafts, the air currents.
Because I mean, they've had these gigantic UFOs over the Bridgewater Triangle that just sort of like materialize in the sky. I know someone who witnessed that with 200 other witnesses. Saw it in one night. The thing just appeared. People went running. They were so scared by it. But he said, Andy, it was the craziest thing I ever saw. And then I saw the documentary, The Bridgewater Triangle, and they're the 2 reporters describing the same thing I saw back in, 94 with all those other witnesses at the college.
Yeah.
He said, some of my teachers were so scared, they ran back into the building. They wouldn't even look at it. And the next day they said, Brian, just don't talk about it anymore.
Right.
Just don't talk about it. People were that terrified by it.
Yeah.
And not only was it the large,
because it's one thing to talk about ghosts in somebody's attic. it's another thing to say a creature that
a craft that blocked out the
eyewitnesses-
stars. I mean,
Yeah.
that makes it feel like a
Yeah.
bug. You know,
On
Brian
the
said it
yeah,
was,
on the loose.
but he also saw, not only did he see a Thunderbird himself, witness a Thunderbird with other witnesses, and he said, I didn't even know they had a name, like, you know, until I met you, Andy. I just
Yeah.
thought I saw a bird that just didn't
Yeah,
make any
because he
sense.
wasn't, you know, and you're into that
And the
legend.
other thing he saw that's amazing that we found other witnesses is there's some kind of owl-like creature in the Bridgewater Triangle. He saw it himself, and it freaked him out. Had a girlfriend terrified by it. He said this thing was probably a 6-foot tall owl-like creature, and it was in the middle of the road eating a roadkill that he saw earlier in the day. And owls don't eat anything dead; they hunt living.
Right.
And he said when the thing got up and opened its wingspan, it just blotted out his windshield, and he hit one of the wings with his windshield doing about 20, 25 miles an hour. And he stopped immediately in this tight little road in Onset, Massachusetts, and started to turn his car around. And his girlfriend's going, Brian, what are you doing? What are you doing? He goes, that's the biggest owl I've ever seen, and I think I may have injured it. I can't just like drive away. And she's going, no, Brian, it wasn't an owl. Don't turn around. And he did. He gets out of the car. It's as quiet as the tomb. There's nothing around, no flopping, nothing. And she's going, Brian, get in the car. And he's going, what's wrong? I just want to make sure I didn't hurt the animal. She goes, Brian, didn't you see its face? And he realized he didn't. He goes, no, I didn't. She goes, it looked like, and she swore and went, Jeepers creepers, get back in the car. She said the thing didn't have the face of a normal owl. It had this hideous face on it.
Wow.
So then some time goes by, and a friend of his buys a house right on that road. And we're checking the house out, like, hey, this is a real nice house. You did a really good job and all this and that. He goes, hey, did you see the documentary Andy was in, the Bridgewater Triangle? He goes, oh, this whole area is weird. I got to see that documentary. He's going, I can remember when I used to hang out with these hunters when I was a younger kid. They said there was a thing in
Bridgewater Triangle.
He said there was a thing in the
Special.
woods they used to call the owl. And they said, but it wasn't an owl. And even though they had shotguns, they would leave the woods because it was so scary. And I look at Brian and go, does your friend Ryan know the story? He goes, Andy, you're the only person I tell that story to. Everybody else would think I was nuts. Ryan goes, what? So Brian tells him the story.
Right. Again.
So then Ryan comes back and says, hey, I found some of those hunters. They said they've seen it again.
Oh, wow.
So somewhere in the Bridgewater Triangle, there is a hideous owl.
Like the Jersey Devil, some people would claim that is demonic.
Well,
You're
this
not
thing,
of our realm.
that's what Brian's girlfriend
demonic.
felt. That she was like, this thing was awful. It was
I kind of like that
Weird
interpretation
place.
myself.
Yeah.
Because it gives it substance. You know.
But then to run into
it's
somebody else
number.
who just brings that story up and just
Yeah.
and we're like, oh my God, what are the odds of that? And then he's doing the same thing. He's like, oh my God, Brian, you've seen it too. And like,
Wow.
so I'm now on the lookout for these owl man stories because the Bridgewater Triangle
I
is
want to go.
it's weird.
We're gonna make
very,
a date for this.
very, very
Road
weird.
trip.
Yeah. I will do this.
Oh, somebody had a question up
Road
about the Oliver House. I saw that.
Yes.
Yeah, about the question about the Oliver House.
Oliver House
yeah.
was back here.
That place is very, very interesting.
Oops.
I saw a video of an apparition going up the staircase in that place.
Okay.
I also showed up about 2 hours after they took a picture of one of the ghost dogs in
Oh.
the building, and it's very. And also the history is amazing. Ben Franklin committed an act of spying in there. He stole letters from the house to prove that they were loyalists and not patriots. So that house has an amazing piece of history, but boy, it is haunted, and it also has fairy activity in the backyard.
Is that what you saw, the purple thing? Was that Oliver House?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Oliver House. Yep.
Down in the basement.
Middleton. Yeah.
There is a tree in the back that's got to be a fairy fort. I said that.
Oh, wow.
And people said, "Oh, Andy, we see lights around that tree all the
Yeah,
time."
well, I saw that she was just speaking of. I
Yeah.
saw that was the last time I saw a ghost. I mean,
Just
the
doing a
most
tour.
recent. We were on a tour. I did not expect to see anything. I'm not looking at activity.
Regular tour.
And I figured we probably wouldn't. So we're not going around with gadgets and all that.
Right.
And we're down in the cellar, and our guide was just starting to tell us that there's stories about people being buried down there.
Right.
You know, and,
Right.
footsteps and
Yep.
they were buried in the earth. And she'd found a finger. She found phalange bones.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and she had to turn them over to the police.
Sure.
And of course, she never got them back. But she did find a finger bone down there.
Yeah.
I
No.
don't know if she was the actual one who unearthed it, but she had it. And of course, she did what she was supposed to do. She alerted the authorities, and they confiscated it to analyze it. And she'll never see it again. But that was found there. So there was human remain.
Well, I was told that if someone died in the winter, it was a lot easier to dig a shallow grave in the basement
Yeah.
And then sometimes they would remove them, and then sometimes it'd be like, no, leave them where we put them. I've been told this by other historians that they've found bodies in old basements.
Yeah, they don't want to disturb them. It's too
Yeah.
much trouble to get them out of there
Yeah,
anyway.
well,
They would've-
people are like, just leave them be,
Yeah, 'cause then you gotta
because
pay somebody to
you
bring
know,
them.
and all that. So yeah, it's not that uncommon.
Right.
But no, we're talking about the Oliver House. We're talking about strange because you have all the great ghost stories and seems to be fairy stories. 5 minutes away from there, Bigfoot sighting.
Ah,
I don't know.
Convergent
in a field.
phenomena.
In a field. Yep.
Wow.
convergent manifestations. Yeah. Well, when I was there, I saw a purple face, a woman's face, and it was as vivid. I thought, out of the corner of my eye, I thought it was electric paneling.
Mhm.
There was no wall there.
Mhm.
I looked. It's happening. It was 7:05. I told Elise, please mark this time, because I figured if I say everybody look, I could see anything probably. So I saw it on my peripheral vision. I turned around, and it's purple, glowing, and it was like a panel. It unfolded, it opened up, and it was a woman's face, and then it shut.
Well, like I said, I saw a film
Rift in the dimensional
of
fabric,
a woman running up the main staircase. It was an
Uh-huh.
amazing video, and I watched it several times. And I know the lady who shot it. She wasn't pulling my leg, and so that house is amazing. It is amazing.
Yeah, I hope to get back there sometime. And we got a field trip coming up now.
Yeah.
We're talking
Oh, yeah.
about Bridgewater and all that. So what is happening for you in the near future? You've got some big enterprise coming.
Well, I've been asked.
Well,
I've been asked to be interviewed by
Yeah.
the History Channel has the show Skinwalker Ranch,
Yes.
and they're doing a spin-off called Beyond Skinwalker,
Yeah.
and they're going to look at other portal areas, and of
Mhm.
course the Bridgewater
Not just
Triangle
confined to the
is-
Southwest.
nice.
it was one of those world famous portal areas, and they got in touch with me because I was in the documentary, The Bridgewater
Yeah.
Triangle,
Yes.
and they want me to tell my story about what happened to me at Anawan Rock back in 2008, and
Might even have a picture of that one rock. I don't know if we do.
yeah, but it's I'll save the story for then. I will let people see it if it does air. But
I have
Anawan,
had
yeah.
interesting experiences on Anawan Rock.
Yeah.
A couple of times.
it's an interesting place. I think the most amazing EVP I heard was caught on a freezing cold February night by two ladies that were out there. They caught an English speaking EVP of a guy saying, "Let's go." Sounds like they were creeping up, like Benjamin Church's men.
Yep.
And here we go. That's exactly what he says. Here we go. Clear as a bell as they decided to walk toward the rock. So it's like they're sneaking up.
Anawan Rock,
And,
Chief Anawan surrendered there.
but the Algonquin EVP she got of male and
Oh.
female voices in
Wow.
choir singing Keatum Pog, which means friend.
Mhm.
And then they say something else after that, but you can't, you can hear the cadence, but you can't make out what it is. But bird calls that they didn't hear with their own
Yeah.
ears, but they play it back and it sounds like people blowing.
There was
like,
indigenous
yeah.
people's presence.
Yeah.
Well, when I went there a number of years ago, I went there with my friends Pierre and Jen, and this is probably, I think it was 1989. And I went up there with them, and what I do whenever I go to Anawan Rock, for some reason, I run up the rock. I want to see
Right.
before other people get there. I want to look over the edge, and I was, where there's a divide in the rock,
Yes.
and it's a steep drop.
Yes.
I distinctly heard two male voices speaking, and it wasn't English, but it sounded like a Native American dialect. And they're both speaking, and but it was weird. I didn't even think Native American at the time, and it had that strange AVP,
right.
voice phenomenon, clarity to it. It stopped. When we speak, there's a little resonance. We're just so used to it, we don't really notice it. There's a tiny echo after we speak, and the timer in our ear picks up on that. And this just stopped. And when I've heard disembodied voices, they just stop. All of a sudden they're gone. Without any residue.
And even if they are speaking English, it sounds
Yeah.
like Charlie Brown's teacher. You just can't make it. You hear it, but you can't make it out.
Clearly expected to see two men down there talking. No matter
Mhm.
how obscure was their language, I expected to see two men down there, and they were not.
Well, it was the backside of the rock where Anawan was sleeping with Church.
Right.
Got him.
Yeah.
So
And
the
it was
very
separate.
backside of the rock.
He surrendered on the
has
promise
to
of
be-
clemency. which is-
Well, I read Church's diary. He told him what was going to happen to him. That's a misnomer. Church warned him.
Really?
He said, "I hope that they'll be lenient on the women and children,"
Hmm.
which they weren't. They were sold into slavery. But he said they're going to do what they did to King Charles I.
Yeah.
They're going to behead you and draw and quarter you. People think that was like such a horrible.
it was a very English tradition.
They
Execution.
think
King
it.
Charles I was
You know,
beheaded.
people bring it up like it was a racist. No, they did that to Charles I.
They did, yeah.
And then when Cromwell died, Charles II came back. They dug up Cromwell's body and defiled his body. They kicked his head around like a football for like 200 years before someone finally got it back and gave it to one of Cromwell's, relations. Like, please
they made
bury
a death
this.
mask of him too, and he's
so
his head was around.
People
till
in
some years ago.
royalty, if you're the top dog, when they get you, they
take it a bit. They defile.
Like poor Anawan and his folks. Did you know that war almost ended in Smithfield?
No, I didn't know that.
Yep, Church had caught Anawan, and Philip was there at the rock. Same thing. It was a rock, not pudding stone, but it was a rock in a swamp in Smithfield. And they both sides started taking casualties. And Church, after seeing what happened in the Great Swamp Fight, pulled his men back.
We're talking about 1671, 1670.
Well, no, it was 1676 by this time. 1675 to 1676
was the whole conflict.
Yeah, the whole conflict. And as I said, my ancestor died August 14th, 2 weeks before the official surrender. He was up in Maine. But the funny thing is, my good friend Matt Moniz, he's got Micmac blood, and it was the Micmacs who killed my ancestors. So I'm like, isn't it weird, Matt? We're probably like reincarnated. We're like hanging out with
meant
friends.
To get together.
Yeah, we're friends now.
Make amends.
But back in 1676, you were probably chopping the tar out of me.
And that's one of my biggest things that I love about doing this whole paranormal thing is the history. I mean,
she's a historian.
What do? I walk into a place and I'm like, hello, my name is, I'm an historian. I look for stories. I like to talk to people. I'd like to find out about places. Please talk to me.
The best ghost stories are the ones you can back up with history.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, no, this served valuable contribution, because sometimes you can like look at the background and say, now I can understand why this is supposedly haunted.
Yeah. A little bit of verification.
But we'll see how that goes with the History Channel. I've seen Skinwalker Ranch. They looks like they're doing a nice job with it.
Everybody likes it who watches it.
Yeah.
So at least I can brag and say, hey, I was on a show on the History Channel.
Yeah, there you go.
It's good on your resumes if you need more. Yeah. So that's a pretty good achievement forthcoming.
Yeah,
that
sounds good.
Anything else definite that you have?
Because
you're not somebody who pursues television acclaim.
Well, I'd like to get some kind of project going, because like we were saying, I've got my father's voice. I've got a passion for it. So I don't know if I'm going to start up a YouTube channel or what,
Patreon or something.
But if anybody's out there, if they want to come to Rhode Island in the autumn, I give haunted Rhode Island tours.
I was going to ask if you were still doing that.
Yeah,
I have a wonderful haunted Rehoboth tour that I was on.
Yeah, Rehoboth, and oddly enough, Rehoboth, my ancestors' connection to that, Lake Street, Rehoboth, my ancestors.
Yes, I told Elise that.
Where the Palmer River burial ground is.
Yeah.
The original cemetery in there, that's the Lake Family Cemetery.
Wow. No, I remember that, you had musicians in your history too.
Well,
Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
No.
That wasn't you.
No.
I've been telling people this for 15 years now.
No.
Oh my God.
No, Sir Edward Lake, the hero of the Battle of Edge Hill, but not the rock star.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know how to thank you except to ask you to come back on again.
Well, anytime you guys need.
We've said that to all our ghosts, and we really mean it. But
Yeah. Well,
I like this fireside chat.
Yeah.
Well, like I said,
right behind that screen is a King DeCosta. We don't see him, but we know he's there.
If you ever want to come by my house, we'll have a fire and listen to old time radio shows or tell ghost stories or whatever.
We'll have fun with that.
Yeah, I got a nice hearth to hang out. Yeah. My German Shorty Pointer will bother you with all his stuffed toys, though. He'll keep coming out.
I love German Shepherds.
They look at you.
Everything is about me. Look at my toys.
I'm coming over then.
Yeah.
It's a nice.
Well, thank you. We should wrap up. Don't want to close the show, but thank you for your comments. I wish we could address more of them, but we will look at them later, of course. And so, Andrew, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks so much
for having me on.
No, thanks. Well, come on anytime.
Fantastic. And Ken.
So good, and they're good for you too, so I can eat them.